Welcome to a new installment of Frog Loop, where AI meets real-world innovation. Today we're talking about creating with AI. In this case, creating consistent character illustrations. I wrote a children's book. Yes, I did, and I shall tell you more about that at some point, maybe next week. In any case, I have been in the process of illustrating it with AI, and I hit a wall I didn't expect. The same character, in this case a girl, has to survive 60-odd pages. The model won't agree to that, and once I worked out why, the whole problem changed shape. The word out there is simple. Ask the model to save your characters to its memory, and everything stays consistent. Well, that sounds simple enough. However, how do you do that in practice? I tried to do that, and then I noticed I was pasting the full appearance description in again and again. Anyway, every single time, because otherwise it dropped details. Let's sit with that for a moment. Save it to memory so it stays consistent, and retype the whole thing every time because memory doesn't hold. Both cannot be true. One of them is load-bearing, and it's the second one actually. The first one is a comfort blanket. That was the moment I stopped trusting the trick and started asking what was actually happening when I was doing this. So here's what's happening. When your character drifts between images, nothing happens. The model isn't losing track of hair. In this case, my girl character. There was never a hair to lose track of. So an image model doesn't hold a character between generations of creating the images. Actually, each image is a fresh sample, built from whatever you handed it, this very time. It's the machine version of the thing babies haven't developed yet. Object permanence. The understanding that a thing still exists when you stop looking at it. I'm sure you've seen some of the psychology experiments on this. The model has not got there yet. Every generation is the first time it has ever seen your character, my character. So a better description was never the fix. It's just weights the dice differently on each roll. The character lives in my head, somewhere the model simply cannot reach. And when I see the one version compared to the next one, I can notice the differences. The fix is therefore to stop describing the face and start handing over the face itself and then the clothing and ensuring that each and every single detail is correct from one generation to the next. Think of the model as the man in the film Memento. If you haven't seen it, go have a look. It's a really good film. The man has no ability to form new memories, so he ends up tattooing the facts on his skin and keeps a stack of Polaroids to know who anyone in his life is. A reference image is the Polaroid. Warm brown eyes, dark waves, describes 1,000 faces, not just a single one. A turnaround sheet describes exactly one girl. Pixels are unambiguous in a way adjectives never are. There's one more step. I was mentioning 40 pages here, it's now grown to 60, the book, but well, anyway, I ended up putting it off for weeks because it sounds like quite a lot of work. Training a LoRA. LoRA stands for Low Rank Adaptation, and it is a technique to customize AI models without retraining them from scratch. So effectively, you are having to do your own training for your model, in this case for your own characters. That may be the real answer for anything at a longer book. In that case, you stop asking for the character and you bake her in. She becomes a token, effectively, a token that the model genuinely knows and can handle without problem. And the training data is the reference sheets that you may create for your character. You already made those. The prompt path and the training path were never a fork in the road. They are the same work though, banked at different points. So here's the workflow we could follow. You may not want to train a model for a few images, every time. If it's only a few images, there's not really much point in training a LoRA. So here's what you could do. And I was doing some of this in ChatGPT. Step number 1, keep the character in a plain text log, in a file that you own, not in the chat's memory. And that is the context of your AI model. It's available on every request. So in this case, I'm creating a character, Maria of 9. She's curious and determined. Her face is round, warm brown eyes, freckles, describing all this, right? And also notice the negatives. I do not change the code color, for example, or add a hat when you are going from one to the next. Number 2, you need to keep the style. You need a style log. And that should be a separate block. And never name a studio like Pixar or Disney. It drifts. And also it may be an IP problem the moment you start, commercializing some of those images if you have to. In this case, for example, it's a children's picture book illustration with a watercolor plus color pencil light work, right? I don't want 3D information. Number 3, make the Polaroids before any scene. The Memento reference I was making at some point. These will generate the reference sheets styles first, then attach them to every scene. So scene 3.2, the character sheets are there. It's 6 portraits of Maria, consistent face plus hair, and you want them to look curious, delighted, uncertain, focused, so that the model later on has something to hang on when you present a prompt. These are images, not the text that you want to attach from now on, right? Number 4, you have to compose the scene. And this is where the information actually comes in for the log, right? You can set the aspect ratio in the prompt, not with generative fill afterwards. And when 2 characters share a frame, attach both references and say who stands where, or the model averages their faces into 1, for example. This is the prompting, right? But notice that we're passing the style log and the character log at each point. So what not to do? Well, don't trust the memory toggle in your AI provider. That sometimes drifts, I found. Hold the spec in a file you own, and you can provide that. In some instances, like in Claude, you may be able to do that with cowork, for example, more effectively. Don't name a studio style. I mentioned, IP risks are there. Come up with your own. Don't fix the aspect ratio afterwards. Set it at the generation of the image, otherwise you'll have to regenerate it again and again. And describe 2 characters and hoping for them to appear is definitely a no-go. It did not work for me, and I was wasting too much time and too many tokens. Attach instead both references and place them explicitly. What should you do? Well, if you're a hobbyist, like I've been doing, create your logs, create your reference images, and skip the retyping theater that I was doing. If you're a builder, maybe compile prompts from a spec file, add a drift check later on. If you're shipping at scale, have a look at training a LoRA. That will probably be much better for you. It may take you more time, but in the long run, it may pay off. So in a nutshell, what could we do here? Well, stop retyping every time that you want to generate a character. Start holding on to that character itself. I will put some information about the book that I have created. It will be available in Apple Books and in Kindle to start with, and I'd love to hear what you think of that. Anyway, here's Rogue Loop, where AI meets real-world innovation. Like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.